All right, let's talk about a really fundamental shift happening in academic technology. We're going to look at moving away from just, a bunch of separate tools and towards something totally different, a single, unified operating system that's built from the ground up for higher education. So let's just dive right in with a question that really gets to the core of the problem for a lot of schools. I want you to think about your curriculum, your courses, the whole academic program. Is it actually built on a solid, connected foundation? Or is it kind of held together by a patchwork of disconnected Word docs, spreadsheets, and different versions of a syllabus floating around? There's a name for this problem. Let's just call it what it is, the academic disconnect. And we're going to start by really digging into this challenge of siloed workflows, because honestly, it's the reality for so many institutions out there. And this is what that disconnect looks like in the real world. So you've got curriculum design happening over here, probably in a committee. Then you have faculty over there creating their own teaching content based on how they interpret the curriculum. After that, someone else builds assessments to test the students. And then, way at the end of the line, administrators are trying to measure the program's outcomes, basically just hoping it all lines up. Each step, as you can see, is pretty much in its own little world. And here's the crucial point. This isn't just inefficient, it's a real problem. This kind of fragmentation leads to serious issues. You get teaching content that slowly drifts away from the curriculum's goals, assessments that don't really measure what they're supposed to, and in the end, you're left in this fog of uncertainty about what students are actually learning. So, what's the alternative to all this chaos? Well, it really demands a whole new way of thinking. Let's explore what it looks like to move away from just collecting isolated features and instead build a single, unified academic flow. And this right here perfectly illustrates that new way of thinking. See, instead of buying a separate tool for every single step, the whole idea of an academic Oz is to connect the entire pipeline. From that very first decision about the curriculum all the way to the final report for accreditation, every single thing is linked back to one single source of truth. But okay, how does a system like this actually pull that off? How does it make that connection? Well, it all starts with an incredibly powerful foundation, something we could think of as the core knowledge engine. Right at the very heart of this engine is what's called the concept knowledge base, or CKB. And listen, this is not just some list of topics. It's a highly structured, centralized map of every single learning concept in the curriculum, how those concepts relate to each other, and exactly where to find them in source materials, like a textbook. It's basically the DNA of the curriculum. Now check this out. This is where you see just how deep this structure goes. Every single concept, like say heat transfer, is tagged with the cognitive scale a student needs. That's what Bloom's taxonomy is, a framework for that. It's also tagged with its difficulty level, its relationship to bigger ideas like thermodynamics, and it's even mapped to the exact page number in a textbook. This level of detail, wow, it creates an unbelievably strong foundation. And that's exactly why this CKB is called the core node. It's not just another feature you can add on, it's the central defensible architecture that makes everything else in the system not just possible, but incredibly powerful. Okay, so we've established this incredibly powerful blueprint. Now what? How does this actually change the day-to-day work of teaching and assessing students? Let's take a look at how this foundation is actually used. The first thing, the most immediate benefit you get, is the ability to create perfectly aligned teaching content. Because the system knows the curriculum's DNA, it can actually help faculty build materials that are guaranteed to be on target. And we're talking about everything, from structured course materials, to lecture notes, to PowerPoints, and even self-learning materials for the students. Every single one of these can be generated from that same core knowledge base. Every piece is tagged and mapped back to those foundational concepts. It pretty much eliminates curriculum drift. So when it comes to testing students, this aligned approach creates this stark contrast. The old way often involves a lot of guesswork, and you're always running the risk of misalignment. But with a CKD, the whole process becomes blueprint-driven. It ensures every question has a purpose and gives you incredibly specific concept-level data. So what does that actually look like? Well, a professor can use something called an assessment blueprint builder to design an exam with incredible precision. They can set up different sections, choose question types, control how the points are distributed, and, this is the really powerful part, they can mandate the exact mix of cognitive skills they want to test. For example, ensuring 30% of the exam questions require students to analyze. The system then pulls questions from a question bank, where every single item, every question, is tagged back to a specific concept, a bloom level, and a difficulty rating. This is how you guarantee that the final exam perfectly matches the blueprint you designed and accurately measures what you intended to teach. All right, so we've gone from curriculum to content to assessment. It's time to close the loop. The final massive payoff from a connected system like this is the ability to get verified outcomes and what we can really call institutional intelligence. And a huge part of that intelligence is being able to trust it. That means ensuring integrity. The system gives you a fully traceable audit-ready log for every single assessment. And this is not about surveillance, let's be clear. It's about creating a transparent, verifiable record that guarantees fairness and accountability for everyone. Now, because every question is mapped to a concept, and every concept is mapped to a learning outcome, the system can spit out these incredibly clear analytics. You can see instantly how well students are mastering each specific learning outcome for a course. You can spot strengths and weaknesses in real time. And then you can zoom out even further and see the high-level metrics that leadership really cares about, something like an 85% coverage of the entire program's outcomes. This gives you a single data-backed number that acts like a health check on the effectiveness of the whole program. So the really crucial takeaway here is that a system like this goes way beyond just collecting data. It actively transforms that data into decision-grade intelligence. It's immediately useful for professors who want to improve their courses, for deans who are managing academic quality, and for providing hard proof to accreditation bodies. And there you have it. We've really traced the whole journey, all the way from a disconnected, fragmented process to what is essentially a single, unified academic engine. You know, when you boil it all down, the most powerful idea here is this: the flow is the feature. The real game changer isn't any one single part, not the CKB, not the assessment builder, not even the analytics. It's the seamless, connected, and intelligent workflow that ties all of them together. That's the magic. And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. When it comes to pursuing academic excellence and truly verifiable learning, is your institution still just running on a collection of separate features, or is it ready to upgrade to a complete operating system?